And then I started seeing the lack of investment in women, which is totally irrational. I mean, we outperform men. We
Yes.
deliver 3 times faster at a return. The question becomes, if you fall prey to the fear of these are the biggest companies in the world that I'm going up against, Sony and Bose and Google and Apple and, literally the largest companies in the world. People get into wanting to be an entrepreneur, and they think it's going to be a linear process and they can follow some step-by-step guide. They're wrong. That is just not how it works. And it will never work that way.
What is the drive? What is that within you that you just keep going and keep going and keep going?
Well, the pain can be intense, but so can the reward of de-risking of what you're doing, and that'll give you less anxiety. And start to think through, why am I feeling anxious? It's because I'm feeling a lack of control over this one thing usually. There's no doubt about it. The only thing holding us back is our own inability to actually get behind one another and do it.
Hey everyone, do me a quick favor and double check that you are a follower or subscriber wherever you listen to the show. I'd be unconditionally grateful. Every new follower, listener, and subscriber helps us keep creating content we love and that you enjoy. It's the best way to ensure you never miss one of my Unconversations. You are on this journey with us, and thank you for that. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Unconversations podcast. I am your host, Dr. Alison, and today I am really super excited to welcome to the show Katie Stearns. She is the founder and CEO of Blyngz Luxury Technologies. Katie, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I have just been so looking forward to having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
First, before we get started, I do need to ask, how did Blyngz Luxury? I love the name. Who came up with that?
I did.
Did you?
I did. I love naming things. It's one of my special superpowers, I think. I really, really like to come up with names for companies and brands. So thank you. And, of course, it's a common word, so we had to spell it differently. But thanks. I knew that we need it because it's a pair of things, so it needed to be plural. And I was imagining a woman running out the door. Oh, wait, I have to get my Blyngz.
Totally.
Right. And I was thinking, like, we're really kind of inventing a whole new product category. I'm like, what if we could make the brand name iconic with that type of product? Kind of like Kleenex for facial tissues.
Yes.
So I was thinking about it, a lot of things like that when I came up with it. And it is, I put a Z in there because that kind of connotates tech a little more. It makes it more techy. And so it's not just style, it's also tech.
Well, first of all, for someone to say that that's their superpower, that's amazing, because that's usually the hardest thing that any business owner, entrepreneur, founder is like, what is the name going to be? And then for you to come up with something that starts with something sexy like Blyngz and then makes it sound really high level with technologies, it's brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really brilliant. I know we'll get more into that later on in the show. But as I like to start every episode with is the unword of facts. And I wanted to start first with your process of when I asked you to think of those words, what it was like for you, what the experience was, and then we'll go into each one of your words individually.
Sure. It was interesting exercise because it's looking at things more from the negative perspective of something, right? Because it's and so, I thought a lot about it. I actually used a thesaurus lookup tool and to like get a list of, or to get some ideas about it. And yeah, it was interesting because it is a limited pool of words too, It's not everything you can think of. It's easier to just come up with things that are not framed in that way. But it's almost like, what's the thing? Well, it's not like you're lacking of this thing, but it's just a different framing of it. It's really an interesting perspective exercise to go through.
Oh,
Everybody
well,
should everybody should do it.
well, thank you. I've gotten so many different responses. I mean, some people have said that, it was really introspective, who also thought that they were having it was hard for them because every word they would see had a negative connotation to it, or some had really strong, like, oh, wow, yeah, this is a powerful word for me. The three that you came up with, did they come pretty easily, or were there some that you were sort of toying with, kind of back and forth before you were like, yeah, these are the three I want to talk about?
I think two of the three were pretty easy, but finding that third word was more challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. I was curious about that. Well, let's get into the first one, which I definitely think, especially for someone who's a serial entrepreneur, an inventor, and an investor as well, you probably have to, this word probably has to speak to you. And that was unwavering. So what was unwavering? Where did that one just kind of strike a chord, and what is it, if you can share an example or examples of why that one was, unwavering definitely has to be the word.
Well, to me, that word speaks to commitment and loyalty.
Wow.
And honor. And so, character. Though to me, that word is, I was thinking about it from those perspectives, and those are very important to me. And people who know me know that I'm a very loyal person.
Yes.
I am, what you see is what you get. I try to be, my word is, everything. And character really, really matters to me. So that to me is, that's what I meant by unwavering. Trust is earned and trust is easily broken. And when you're in a world like this where you are relying upon people to trust you, in particular, when you're bootstrapping things and people are helping you out of the goodness of their heart sometimes, and so it's very important. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to, or if something changes, I'm going to be upfront about it and I'm going to tell them, and I'm not going to ghost people, and I'm not, so unwavering is about being true to my principles and the way I want to be treated, and to just live by that rule of treat other people that way too.
Wow, I think you're the first one in a way that has used unwavering in such a personal way, because that's I think how you show up, and you have with me, how you show up in your personal life is probably the same reflection of how you show up in your professional life. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and sometimes that's not wise, honestly. I'm not the most filtered person in the world.
Well, I think that's exactly why I wanted to have you on the show, was because of that reason, because I think that really truly makes you. But I think you have to be. Let's talk about that for a minute, because when you're a serial entrepreneur and an inventor and an investor, these are really big things that take up a lot of your time, your energy, your mind space. And sometimes that can bleed into, personal relationships, have that be, marriage relationships or dating relationships or even friends. So when you were just sort of talking about, sometimes that can be a little problematic. Is that sort of what you were thinking, or can you tell me what you were thinking and maybe elaborate a bit on kind of how you balance something like that, because when you're bootstrapping also something, I mean, your mind is absolutely in this space.
Yeah. I'm not sure it relates directly to unwavering, but it is true, all the things you're describing, and those things do stress. They can stress relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really going outside of the norm in my behavior as a woman, and probably, and not just a woman, anybody who's trying to get a startup off the ground is not operating within the same social structures and constraints as people who have 9 to 5s. And you just
Yeah,
don't have
definitely.
you just don't have the availability that you
Yeah.
even crave and want, but
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
because you're a slave essentially to your vision for the time
Yeah.
being. And eventually you get going and you get enough traction and you get enough revenue coming in and you have a support team finally who can help take some of the weight off. But in the earlier stages, you are kind of really have to be obsessively chasing your getting this going. And that
Yeah.
means you are carrying the balls yourself. You are moving it forward yourself. You are finding a way to keep it going. And that's hard because it just doesn't give you the time. You don't have from 5 to 10 every night to socialize.
Right.
Um, you know, you don't. You're
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about it. And that used to kind of drive my family crazy because like I'd want to tell I'm an extrovert and so that means everything I'm thinking, blah. And they're like, Mom, we don't need to hear every nuance of every conversation and every I'm like, I'm sorry, okay, I'll talk to the wall.
Are you sure that one of your other N words wasn't possibly unfiltered somewhere that may have
That would have
popped
been
in
a
the back
really
here?
good one. I didn't think of that. That's a great one.
Yeah, we will touch more on that topic as we talk. I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
Your next one, I love, and no one has used this word, and that is unorthodox. And I mean, like, if any of the three words. I mean, I don't know if I would have thought about it for you, but when you talked about it, I said, yeah, this is absolutely just a great word for you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, and part of that is, it's just a personality type in a way. I mean, if you're a divergent thinker, you're thinking about things from the inverse, or you're thinking about looking for holes, that's already unorthodox.
Right.
You're in fact looking for things that are unorthodox.
Yeah.
Orthodoxy means status quo. It means what already exists.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And being unorthodox is it's creativity. It is where creativity lives. And so for me, unorthodox means, and also you have to be, when you don't have money, you have to be unorthodox. You have to think of
Yes.
new ways or different ways to get it going. And if you think that this is a linear process, you're not going to be in it for long. I can tell you that, because it's not.
Do you have an example? Please repeat that. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, if people get into wanting to be an entrepreneur, and they think it's going to be a linear process and they can follow some step-by-step guide, they're wrong. That is just not how it works. And it will never work that way. You are going to run into things you didn't anticipate. You're going to have massive problems. You're going to learn maybe that your original concept isn't even wanted.
Yes.
But maybe there's something in it that is wanted that you could pivot towards something better and different that is wanted. But you have to be open to that. You have to be able to see it, hear it, and take it in, and then pivot.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have an example that you can kind of bring to life for your unorthodox? Like, were you in a position at any of those where you're talking about pivoting and it was a really unorthodox moment where you're like, wow, okay, that was interesting. and it really ended up sort of paying off for you, or didn't really pay off for you?
Well, like in my last business, there were several times that happened. So I had a Minnesota artisan food gift box called Betcha box. That was my last business. And I worked with over 100 small makers, that made everything from hot sauce to they were coffee roasters. They had beautiful jams. They had really cool sauces, barbecue rubs, everything really great. Small business owners that were fun and inspiring and had great stories. And so I used their products to create cool Minnesota themed boxes. And I put the story of each maker in the box. So it was more than just a box of groceries. It was an inspirational experience as well. And it was very
Cool.
Minnesota centric, right? So we had, themed boxes around our experience here, and it was a great success. So I launched the company as a fundraising concept for my son's, one of my son's activities. And I was sick of the stuff we were selling. And then I realized really quickly that's not going to work, but it does make a great gift box, just a general purpose gift box. And then later I learned it's really the corporate market that I need to target. But in the middle of all, as I'm developing this business, COVID hit. And I was like, what am I going to do? Because, I was splitting my time between doing all these holiday shows. I was all over the place. My boxes were sold at a store at the Mall of America, and I sold online. And of course, at that point, then everything had to go online. There was nothing in person anymore. And all my small business owners that I was working with had the threat of going out of business because they couldn't get into grocery stores to demo. They couldn't they sell at farmers markets. So I'm like, I thought, this is terrible. If I can help them stay alive. So I had to pivot during that, and I came up with several concepts that were unorthodox and very different from what I'd been doing before. One was there was a huge need to help frontline workers, and everybody was trying. People were bringing pizzas to hospitals, and they didn't want that. And I was asked, like, can you get them snacks? And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. So I got my makers to provide individually packaged products that were snackable, and we did a Feed the Frontline Worker campaign. And eventually we supplied the entire VA hospital in Minneapolis with a whole truckload of products that were sourced from everybody that sourced it was from the local makers, and they got paid for it. Somebody stepped up and paid for the product. So they weren't being asked to donate because they're already small makers who are already, they couldn't afford to do that.
Yes.
And that's one example. It was an unorthodox way to deal with this problem we were in and turn it into an opportunity. And then the other thing, I pivoted my product from being a gift box to being, how about a virtual event snack box? Because all these companies now were having, instead of in-person meetings, we're having huge Zoom calls across the country. And so we'd send out 400 boxes across the country to all their employees ahead of the meeting. And it would have all snack boxes throughout the day, so they could snack during the day. And it was interesting. It gave them something fun to talk about. And anyway, a huge part of my business that year was doing those. So that was an unorthodox solution that had never been done before. Nobody had ever done that or thought of doing that. Yeah. And, but it turned into an opportunity. In both of those cases, they both ended up becoming opportunities. And then, of course, those people called on me later to order boxes for their clients and things like that.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. It's really interesting because I've had many leaders talk about the impact of COVID. And what's been fascinating about that is it's either been when they just started their business or ready to expand their business or something, and then COVID hit. And it's been fascinating to me because some could just get so, we talk about mental, right? We're like, oh my gosh, and then it becomes this paralyzing moment of how do we get out of this? And I've been hearing more 9 times out of 10, it's been fascinating where the time has just encouraged people more to think out of the box than maybe they ever have before, which was very interesting. And I do understand what I'm saying. Not everyone had that capability to do it, but with the folks that I've been able to have on the show, I mean, very creative. I mean, I had a lady on earlier this year who did the first ever virtual fashion show. I mean, they couldn't do runways in New York. And so they had to, okay, how do we now make this a virtual experience and still make it feel like the people are there, being able to watch the models and be able to see the vibrant clothing and all of that. And it was like, wow, it was like the show must go on regardless of COVID, and how that creativity was pulled together by everyone was just, was amazing. So no, I appreciate you sharing that. Well, I think this last one of yours is going to really bring us into your journey. But let's talk about your Undeterred, because I think Undeterred is, I think they're all where it really represent where you are today, which we'll also talk about. So let's get into what Undeterred means for you.
Well, it means persisting despite the odds. It means staying focused on your vision and continuing to move forward towards, towards what you see as possible. It doesn't mean blindly. It doesn't mean don't take, I mean, I've dropped things that were, once I got into it far enough, I realized that really wasn't going to be commercially viable or not a strong enough opportunity. So, okay, move on to the next thing. That tends to happen pretty early on. But Undeterred is really necessary. Again, it's a necessary quality for entrepreneurs. You have to have, that's where that grit and stamina, and I mean, it's going to be so hard that you're literally breaking down in tears,
Yes.
and then, and you're exhausted, and then the next day you have a sleep and you take a big breath and you sit down and you keep going, or you, in my case, if you're at the computer, you're sitting, but otherwise, I mean, you get up and you find, say you had a bad fight with somebody that everybody's under stress, and then you have to come back and say, patch that up again and keep going. And, so there's always a way forward. It's there. Sometimes it's the window escape hatch. It's not necessarily the door you thought you were going to go through.
Always.
Right. I mean, and that's, but like, right. I mean, like this current, the current endeavor that I'm on right now it's a big opportunity. I mean, that's why I picked it, because I'm like, I built the $1 million revenue company. I want to build $1 billion revenue company. It's not that different. It's just about a question of scale. Is the opportunity big enough? I know that I have the chops to build the company. I know I have the chops to build a product that people want. And I know that I know how to market it and get out in front of people with it. So the question is, and I do believe this is absolutely something that a lot of people are going to want. So the question becomes, if you fall prey to the fear of, these are the biggest companies in the world that I'm going up against, Sony and Bose and Google and Apple and, literally the largest companies in the world. If you let that scare you,
yes,
you can't. You have to be determined that, and you have to remember that you have strengths too that they don't have. It's like they're big Titanics. They're huge, large, giant. Yes, they're giant and they're huge, but I can protect myself. I can de-risk this, and I'm on a little jet ski. And they're on a Titanic. They can't pivot.
Yeah.
They can't move quickly.
Yeah.
And I have other advantages too that they don't have. Because my story is compelling, because, that provides me some protection, because I'm going to be the, hopefully people like me and they want to see me succeed. Yeah. And then I hope they like me. And then like Sally Field, remember, you like me. I have my doubts often, trust me. But that creates opportunities and protection too, right? And it's true with pretty much everything that's put out that's a consumer product. The brand is more important than the product. Anybody can kind of get close enough to steal your product, but can they steal your brand identity? They can't. Nobody with Sony cannot come out with authenticity.
Right.
and
Right.
do what I'm doing,
Right.
not authentically. Yes, they can come up with a tech gadget for sure.
Yeah,
That's probably
definitely.
the same or better than mine, but they can't steal my brand.
Yeah.
And right.
Totally. I totally get that. Yeah. And I feel that way with even what I'm building. Yes, there
Mhm.
are, people doing that, but people also are wanting to do business with me because of me. And it's me. You can't replicate that. Probably be scary if that happened. But no, you cannot replicate that. And I think you're absolutely right when it comes with that. There's the story and the authenticity and that you can't replicate that. So I think that's really beautifully said. There was something struck me where you talked about yes, there's the crying, the breaking down, the mental stress, all the wonderful things of entrepreneurship. What is it about you that you just like, you know, uh, I got to do it again. I got to do it again. And you've been successful. And like you said, do you just go, okay, yeah, I was successful because you did sell the company You Betcha box, and then you very successful, and then here you are again, uh, going. What is it internally for you that you're just like, okay, I'm ready to jump in the hot the hot tub again, and it could scald me again. What is it? Because it really is. I had another lady on the show, and she definitely would describe herself as a serial entrepreneur. She got into doing a very different business around human technology, and just really interesting. And what is the drive? What is that within you that you just keep going and keep going and keep going?
Well, the pain is can be intense, but so can the reward, for one thing. I
Sure.
mean, it's really exciting to put a product out and be in front of customers who love it. That's
Yeah.
very rewarding, you
Yeah.
know. And that the best entrepreneurs are myopically not focused on their product. You can't fall in love with your product, you fall in love with the customers and what their needs are. And seeing those satisfied and bringing, that to people, something people want to people, to people, that and having them that's very rewarding. The other piece is just if you have a brain that's wired this way, and I do, I have I'm an ENTP, kind of borderline PJ, right? I'm
For
not
for
if
those
you're
don't know,
too
that's from the Myers Briggs.
at
Yes.
Myers-Briggs, and those of us with ENTs are
Yeah.
entrepreneurial. I mean,
Yeah.
NTs are super entrepreneurial, um, and you're just kind of thinking in those. You frame the world in that way. You're framing it
Yes.
for optimization or opportunity or things that aren't yet seen but could be done, or the
Right.
creative approach to things.
Yes.
And then the creative process itself is super fun and rewarding. I mean, like right now I'm designing a hardware tech product. I've never done that before, so I get to learn. And I mean,
Yes.
I am agnostic, right? I've built all kinds of businesses across multiple industries instead of focusing on one because that's boring. And you take that way, I get cross-sectional experience as well. I learned this from when I had the very first Minnesota home staging interior design business, where I was helping in
Wow.
a real estate staging merchandising company, right? So
Yes.
there's things you learn from that process, that you take into the next role. And then the last one I learned was like a logistics nightmare that I had to sort out and figure out how to run. I mean, to do something like what I did with You Betcha Box at scale, to be able to offer eventually, we got to the point of being able to do mass customization on demand, where you could call in and we could immediately trigger the warehouse to do automated pick. Like you put the box, it automatically feeds all the contents. If you do a pick, you do a production line. Learning all of that was fun because I actually enjoy logistics, and but I like it all. That's the problem too, is that I'm ADHD, which I see for what I'm doing as a huge superpower. And because it provides for you that kind of a, that unfiltered,
Yes.
the
Yes.
prefrontal cortex is open, right? And
Yes.
so you're
Yes.
getting in inputs from everything. And then you're able to take that, synthesize it, distill it into something. And then if you're in your focus mode, now I can get stuck. I can get stuck on things like, oh my God, my data room is a mess, for investors. And it's weighing on me because I know that's back there. But the important stuff around making sure that you're, you know, keeping many things in mind at once and still moving forward. So you're towards, moving things forward. And that's the other thing, you kind of can't help it. I mean, it's not a choice to be like this.
Yeah.
It's really not. This is, I mean, even when I was hired as a research analyst for the state of Minnesota, in my 20s. I have a degree in sociology, and so I have a real interest in social science, and I'm very analytical. I know data. I know how to manipulate data, and all that comes in again to my startups because I use that information to validate my assumptions and to do customer research and all the other background stuff you need to do to create a good product. But in that job, which sounds like the antithesis of entrepreneurialism,
Right.
right? I'm like working in this office with all these. I was hired by the Research and Statistics Office, right? And I'm in this room with all these statisticians, and they are like the polar opposite of me, personality type, right? But the funny part is within 6 months, I started looking at what we were doing there and pulling together, like, oh, this data, what if we combined it this way and created a whole new product? And we could serve these customers over here that would love this. In fact, they'd probably even pay us to do this. So I immediately started building up a little business inside the Research and Statistics Office that like completely expanded. Next thing you know, within 3 years, well, I was promoted quickly. And then within like 3 years, I was speaking at national conferences and showing the rest of the country what they could be doing with their data
Wow.
differently.
Wow.
And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
and like I said, don't just hire statisticians, hire really good, like writers, people who can come and create new publications for you that target certain markets or certain segments of the population, not markets, because we're a public service, but they wouldn't call them
Yes.
customers, but that's how you think of them. Anyway, but so that's the thing, you can't help it. You just are going to start coming up with ideas, and it becomes challenging in a corporate environment because that type of personality can be very threatening,
Correct.
without intending to be. But you're shaking things up, and it's like and then people who are most people honestly makes them uncomfortable because they don't necessarily see where you're headed with this, and they have their
Yep.
job and it's working
Yep.
well, and now you're asking me to do something differently. And who are you anyway, you think? And a creative idea is seen as a criticism. I'm not doing it well enough already, right? And so that became hard, and I just found that it was easier to do it on my own
Yes. Yes.
than
Yes.
try to make change from within. I mean, unless you have a
Yeah.
super supportive boss, if you have a really good, superiors who are supportive of you in that, but
And who don't feel threatened and really know if you're bringing up something, it's usually for the greater good or to make something more effective or more efficient. And, I think you just described me in just that, because I was diagnosed with a learning disability. And I didn't know it at the time that was one of my, we'll say, superpowers. But I've heard people, I could go in with my clients, and I mean, I can diagnose so quickly and fast. And what was interesting is I wasn't very good at school, even though I have achieved 2 masters and a PhD. But I think that was, to prove everyone wrong that I could get to the highest level of things. I guess that's my unwavering and undeterred as well.
Yeah.
But I was very, my brain works in very unique ways. And I had Crystal Zell on the show. She was the former CEO of Tonal, now an EVP of Floor & Decor. And she also told me that she was diagnosed with ADHD. And I was like, and it's interesting that she has worked in companies, but she's been able to work in companies who can handle how her brain and respects how her brain works, because her brain very much works as someone who is very entrepreneurial and can diagnose, where there's problematic areas really quick and know how to, hey, this is what we need to do. And I've noticed that a lot with that human trait and personality trait of very successful people that a lot of them have been diagnosed with some type of learning disability,
Yep.
which has provided them. It was more for me growing up that, oh my God, will she ever be anybody? To now people are coming out and talking about that this really has been a tool and an asset for them. But you're right, it can create some problematic because I do tend to get stuck on things where I'm like, no, this can be better. No, this can be better. No, this can be better. And knowing when to go, but it is really great. And so knowing when to make that shift and that pivot. So I'm glad you talked about that, because I think you do. It's really identifying something that really ends up being kind of your superpower, and being able to talk about it like, yeah, this is my ADHD and this is a part of me and this is how I work and function. But it's also helped me be very successful as you have been. I wanted to ask you, when did you know at the time that it was ready for you to put one chapter, You Betcha box, and decide it was time to jump in the pool again and create, let's say, Blyngz Luxury?
Well, I started looking a little bit so I was going through a divorce too at the time that I sold You Betcha
Oh,
box.
wow.
And I hadn't worked in a regular paycheck job for ever, 20 years,
Mm.
and I mean, I was just going to work at the Nordstrom anniversary sale, and I couldn't get through their resume, even though I've done all this sales stuff. I mean, I led sales teams. That's all I did was sell, right? I couldn't get through their resume sorter because of my lack of work experience. And it was, and then you just thought, and then I started to kind of look. It wasn't during that transition, that was earlier, but I started looking at things, and I started looking at the requirements for the jobs, and they were all so traditional, they were all so conventional, and this is the track you had to have been on. And I knew I didn't fit any of those. And then the few
Mm-hmm.
interviews I did do, I was like way over. They're like, you're going to be bored here. This is way overqualified for this. And of course, I'd make the mistake of going into the interview, doing my research ahead of time, and asking them if they'd thought about these opportunities over here that
Wow.
they weren't currently doing. That was dumb, stupid. Not a way to. You gotta just keep that under your hat for now, Katie.
Right.
I just can't help it. And
Mm-hmm.
then, or I was underqualified because somebody with my background actually typically, that would fit into a leadership role in a marketing organization or in something like that, I didn't have the qualifications for, because I didn't have the traditional qualifications, right? So, and for me, starting businesses is easy. And so I just decided. I didn't look very long. I looked for a while, and I couldn't really find. I even hired a career coach to try to help me put a resume together, and I did, but I wasn't getting any interest. So, and the other thing to remember too is I hadn't had any time to professionally network. I mean, I didn't
Oh,
have a
wow.
professional network because I was a solo
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur all these years. I had a lot of friends from being a
Yes.
mom. There were brilliant women, and that's something we could talk about too. But women don't necessarily step up for each other in those ways in terms of getting them into jobs. Some do, but it's a little different for us. So anyway, I just decided pretty quickly, you know what, I think maybe what I should do is join a pre-existing startup that could use my expertise, and maybe I could come in and help them in that way. And so that's what led me to find this opportunity and to dive in, because I saw, you know, I attended a whole bunch of events and talked to a lot of different startups and saw stuff. But when I saw this particular idea, I immediately saw that it had a massive potential, and I wanted to do something too that I knew I could get funding for, yeah, because my last company, I hit my head against the ceiling. I was so busy operationally in the company, I never had time to go out and try to find funding or bring in partners and develop the relationships that are necessary. That's very time consuming. I was in it
Yes.
running. I mean, I was just nose down. And then it was like, oh my gosh, you'd get a small breath like for February, March, and then the next season you got to start
Yep.
planning. You don't have enough time.
Yep.
And so I'm like, okay,
Yep.
I'll sell this to somebody that has the resources to take it from here and grow it nationally. It's all ready to go. Everything's there. You got the hockey stick growth. They have, you know, so when I put it on the market, I had 2 full price offers, and I was glad to let somebody else take it from there. And then I was like, okay, I'll take all that, leverage what I've learned, and go do something different. That is this time. And I realized it would have to be that all the funding pretty much is going into tech, you know, and I like tech. Tech's great.
Yes.
That's fine. In fact, I launched karaoke across the Midwest right out of college. So I'm
I
very,
was reading that. I thought that was
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
love, I mean, I would integrate the sound systems and the AV system into the bar network. So I mean, I'm not intimidated by electronics at all. Um, and and I thought, okay, and when I saw, you know, this an earlier version of this, what I'm doing now being presented, I knew that this was a huge opportunity. So that's why I decided to get into to pursue it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so now you're in this new opportunity. What were some of the things? Because I think this question I'm going to ask, I think a lot of people would love to know the answer and have them think about this answer for themselves. So you've been in starting business and here you are again. Was there something you said to yourself like, all right, Katie, we're now about to get into something pretty big, or I believe it's really big and we're going to make other believe it's really big. Was there anything that you felt in your past experiences that you were like, all right, we're going to do this differently because this didn't work really great over here, or it took longer to what was sort of your conversations around with yourself of, all right, I am so passionate, I want to do this, this is really how I need to make sure to think about this in a different and successful way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing was making sure that I was properly capitalized, that I had the resources to actually build a business that I knew I could build that wasn't going to be limited. I could have scaled that last business nationally for sure. And I had a whole nother spin-off concept with it that was really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't do it because I was trapped essentially in the operations of trying to keep the wheels on the bus, right? Um,
Okay.
and so this time I said, I'm going to start up front. I'm going to have I'm going to start with me, make sure that we have enough resources to do it properly. And now things have changed because I've had to not, you know, still I'm basically seed strapping. I do have some investment in this company, not enough though. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to get as much done as I can, um, you know, with the money I have, obviously, right? And get as far along. Now and I feel really proud of the progress that's been made already. I mean, but you know, the other thing is you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
you're always learning new things, right? So there's that. Um, the other thing is just, you know, you learn over time that you have to have a deep bench, meaning you can't be overly reliant. You have to really recognize where your vulnerabilities are in terms of your relationships. Like you can control yourself, but you can't control the people you're relying on totally.
Right.
You can't
Right.
control them. And they may choose to slow walk things. They may choose to not make you a priority, or just walk away from the project, or stop working with you for whatever reason. And then if you're 100% reliant on that resource, you're over a barrel. And I hate feeling like that. That's what keeps me up
Yes.
at night.
Oh,
It's those kinds of
yeah.
situations where
Let's
you're
talk
totally
about.
dependent on someone else. And so
Yeah.
you
Let's
have to
talk.
learn how to manage those
Yeah.
relationships, but also, like, keep in the back of your mind, what's your exit strategy? Are you going to protect yourself from that?
Well, let's talk about that, because I think what you just brought up is really important, because it's something that keeps me up at night as well, on who I choose to partner with or collaborate on, or anything to that matter. I mean, I'm very protective even on this podcast. This isn't just me just having just whatever guests. It's my reputation, the people's reputation, the type of conversations we're having, all of it. I treat as delicately as my business. So one isn't treated any differently. So when you're talking about people who you bring into your space, your ideas, because I think what happens for entrepreneurs and founders, it's like we go to our families, or we go to our friends, or we go wherever to gain either that support, have it be emotional support, have it be financial support. When you're sort of talking about that, what does that really mean for you?
I haven't relied, you mean in terms of, I'm talking about more, I haven't, I've gotten some emotional support from my family, but some, not always.
Yes, yes,
I'm an outlier within my family as well. And so, um, I'm unique within my family, I would say. And so
yes.
they,
You and I share
they
that
accept,
commonality.
they accept me but without necessarily understanding, or
Yes, sure,
relating to me. They
sure,
don't
sure.
relate to me necessarily, but they accept me, or they know that's how I am. I don't know if they accept me, but that's Katie, right? um, but but in terms of, and I have a great partner now who's very supportive, and he's awesome, because he is not threatened at all by my big
Mm-hmm.
ambitions, and
Mm-hmm.
that's can be hard to find as a woman, you know.
Yeah, very,
Yeah,
very.
so I feel very blessed for that. So, and he really is helpful to me, because he'll do all those little things that, like, help me keep going, like bring me
Yeah,
coffee in the morning.
yeah. Yes. No, I have a very supportive wife. I mean, she,
Yeah,
she doesn't necessarily understand the drive as an entrepreneur. So, she sees a lot of things within me that she supports, because it's different when she works for a great company, a great position. She has her own pros and cons when it comes to, her job is never a 9 to 5 when you get to certain levels in a company. But, you have your own struggles, but entrepreneurship, and I mean, even, like with new projects I get into, or projects such as this podcast, to me, it's like I treat everything like it's a business, and you have this
yeah.
business mind, this business focus, and how can it be really great and better, and so you're right, that doesn't turn off, at times. But the reason why I wanted to ask this question is because just simplistically as this podcast, and I was telling people about it, and I was talking to friends, and they're like, oh, well, who's going to come on, and what's going to be their motivation, and what's in it for them. And I was like, wow, there's a lot that's in it for them, and we're talking. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like explaining them, like, what am I explaining? But I'm explaining to people that don't necessarily understand my level of mindset and what I really want to do. So you're not going to get what maybe you're hoping to hear, or the understanding, or, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so, when they're not in that space. So that's why I thought it was really interesting when when you were just saying that it can be very lonely. But you had some other people sort of involved in your previous businesses.
Yeah.
Is where this one I was just really curious about, because now you're jumping into the exciting waters, but still jumping into those waters. And what were just some of those things, or how you bring people in? Because I'm very protective about, and like you said earlier, as we were talking about, you come in with the best agenda as possible. You come in with honesty and integrity, and not necessarily everyone is coming in to a meeting with that same level or that same mindset.
Yeah, I know it. And it's hard because I do assume that in others, and I shouldn't, because I've gotten burned many a time with people literally verbatim copying me, stealing from me.
Yes.
And that's happened to me many times. And it's made me a little bit, I mean, some people see it as paranoia, but it's not paranoia, it's knowing. I'm very careful about what I share and what I don't share, or try to be more careful. It's hard. It's really hard for me because it's exciting and I want to share, but I'm trying to be really careful about how much I share. The other thing is, as women, this is something that drives me crazy. We have this collectivism thing that can be really good, but there's a negative side to it, where we are reluctant to give sometimes there's a reluctance to give attribution. And as soon as an idea is out, it's everybody's idea. And no, it wasn't. This person brought that. That's their that is their original content.
Yes.
And in this, I was just asked to do, or actually I offered. I'd been working on this one concept, and a friend said, "Oh, let's work on that together." And I said, great. And so she brought a few other partners in who could help make it real because they have access to funding, etc. And then we had this great meeting. Everybody wanted to proceed. And I already have the whole supportive content backbones of it is done. I have all the contents developed for the most part. I mean, yes, not that it couldn't be refined, and not that other people couldn't contribute to that. But I've spent 2 years on this idea and developing it. And so I was about to turn that all over to everybody to say, okay, here's the basic thing. And then before I did it, I paused, because I've seen this happen before, where all this work and thought and creativity I put into something, once you put it out there without clear boundaries around it and a framework for how are we going to partner, partnerships are the hardest thing in the world. In fact, I recommend avoiding them whenever possible. Don't go into a business partnership off the bat unless you have very clear structural that has to be defined. And number one thing is, how do we get out of it if it doesn't work? If people feel like they're being treated unfairly, it's not what, one person ends up doing everything, or the value people are bringing are very different. If you're just kind of doing the bookkeeping, that's not an equal contribution to somebody that's actually doing all the development work and doing the, And so, and you need to know these things. And if people aren't willing to be really fair about that, and if they expect, equal representation, that's not equitable. So in this instance, with this particular person, I put it out there. Instead of giving them everything, I said, let's talk about the framework of how we're going to share ownership of this. Because we don't wait and see if it takes off and then decide. We're going to decide up front, because if I'm going to bring all this to it, and that struck a nerve with this person, who immediately accused me of, not being pro-woman, and how, on and on. And I was like, wait a minute, why do we have such a problem with ownership as women? In claiming ownership of things. And you're not supposed to do this, right? This is that whole collective thing we talked about earlier in a different conversation.
Yes.
This tendency towards collectivization of everything. I'm supposed to just, and not give attribution. And that, to me, is a super big problem we should talk about. It's part of that tall poppy syndrome. You can't, how dare you stand out?
Yeah, where do you think? Because I was listening to a podcast while I was out of town, and as women, we seem to have a few issues. We have a few issues with putting things down on paper or something legally binding. For some apparent reason, we find that to be extremely offensive. And the conversation of money. And, you know, you look at men and they talk about money all the time and they talk about their fair share and what they want, or if they're going to do this, this is clearly what I'm going to bring to the table. And here's how I want to be compensated for it. I mean, down to, you know, reimbursing my coffee, you know, like they have no problem with any of that. What do you still believe psychologically with us as women? And this kind of goes also into my support in supporting it, because I think it also goes into how we support women. Why, in your opinion, do you still feel like we're doing this? Because we say we're unstoppable and we're powerful and we're all this. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, hold on a minute. What happened? I thought we were all in this together.
Oh God, it's entrenched, you know, I mean, I'm a sociology major, and this is where, you know, from college, this is where I'm super compelled to understand this as a phenomenon, because this is a social phenomenon. This is not, and so I've really been digging into this. I'm like, why does this happen? And really, how are we have the money, we have the expertise, we have everything we need to achieve equality already. We do. There's no doubt about it. The only thing holding us back is our own inability to actually get behind one another and do it. And it's because of things like, the best book I read about it recently was written by Elise Lohman, Lohman, I think. It's called On Her Best Behavior: The 7 Deadly Sins and the Price Women Pay to Be Good. So women define our value through our virtue, right? It's different for men. Not that they don't also care about virtues, but what makes a good girl is certain things. Like greed is a sin. You can't be greedy, and asking for what you want is greedy. Or envy. You're never supposed to show that. So it comes out sideways, right? That's how we get to the, who does she think she is? Back talking about women behind their back when they're not there. Well, she thinks she's something special, doesn't she? All of that. Or somebody who's rising and you can't help but find flaws and sabotage behind her back. I mean, to me, those in that book outlines that stuff so well. And I'm like, I want to help women become aware of this, because, and part of it is like, it's really deep. It's really deep because it gets into this thing of, am I a good person? And we've been taught to be a good person, you have to be certain things as a woman. And so, like somehow putting a contract out there that so super clearly defines things is like right in your face of saying it's conflicting with what we've been taught, which is to go along, to get along, to be cooperative, to be like, everybody will get their fair share. It's okay. You don't need to be given credit.
Correct.
Right. And that stuff is and that, by the way, is not Christian. The 7 deadly sins, it's nowhere in the Bible, but it is cross-cultural. This has been spread across the world. It's really the defining character in the structural backbone of the patriarchy.
Very much so.
That very much keeps us in our position as subservient. It keeps us in our position as the support system. And we're here cooperating as women, helping each other out. And a lot of that is good, of course. That's all great. But there's a dark side, and there's a side that is very self-limiting then because of it. Right? And that, like, having problems with other women also being leaders, like, you know, we can't both be leaders, or, you know what I mean? So, because there's only room, and a lot of that is because of how we've been treated, right? And there was only room on the board for one woman, you know,
totally.
And we were tokenized. And so it put us into a competitive situation with each other, you know, but we can decide to step outside that. You know, right now there's 30% of corporate board directors are women. And if those women also take a very active role in mentoring younger women and how to do this with
Yes.
and promoting at that very first managerial level, that's where the first gap starts. That at the very first management promotion is where the men get the upper hand. And they shouldn't, because the women are performing at least equally, if not better. It's just the way women present themselves in those situations don't look ambitious enough because we've been taught not to be ambitious.
Correct.
We've been taught we can't show our aspirations. We can't say, I want that promotion, and I think you should promote me because of these accomplishments I made.
Yes. Yes.
We're not,
Well,
we're
because
taught that not to do that.
well,
But
we're
that's,
even bashful about our accomplishments. We'll sometimes put our
yeah,
accomplishments down and be like, well, I was able to do this because of X reason. Instead of,
well,
oh no,
right,
I did this because of me.
100%. Well, and maybe, I mean, in that case, we're kind of over attributing credit, right? It's not, and so it's like, it wasn't just me, it was a whole team effort, right? But then that
Right.
on the flip side of that is you don't get to say it was just you,
Right.
right?
You have to say it was the team. You can't say
Yeah.
that or you can't even say, hey, so-and-so brought up this idea, it was really great. And then they help facilitate it with their other team members. And look what we were all able to. It's more of that single
Yeah.
person for the idea doesn't necessarily get the credit because that doesn't look good. We should make the whole team look good. And
Yeah.
you can have both. That's the part that
Yeah.
I don't really understand. I do want to save time for this too. And I get asked this a lot. And it is, how do you think we can really support each other better? I mean, and I don't know if support is really the right word because, and why do we, two things. One, I don't mind spelling out for somebody, yes, these are the things that I need. Can you help me with this? Or do you know someone that I could talk to and network that could help me with this particular project or whatever? But then it's also the like, well, let me know how I can support you. And I'm like, but you reached out to me. So what was it about my business or about me that you thought my business needed support? Like what does that really technically mean? And then that follow through with it seems to just kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
And I find us to do on both fronts, I find us to do a lot of that as women, and how we can do a much better actionable job in supporting
Yeah.
each other.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think we're really good at cheerleading.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you go girl, and oh, you should apply for this job in my company,
Yes.
instead of saying, okay, get in your application, and then I'm going to go talk to my manager about you and put yourself
Right.
on the line for her.
Right.
Right. And or things like tangible. Don't just like after the meeting's over say, I saw what happened and how Bob still, he peated you. Like you came up with the idea and then 5 minutes later he repeated your idea and got the credit for it. Instead,
Right.
in that meeting, having the guts to say, great idea. Oh, Bob, I'm glad you liked Beth's idea. Because that
Right.
didn't Beth have a great idea? It's cool
Right.
that's cool that you also agree with that. Like
Yes.
we have to be willing to put ourselves out there for other women in that way, or like deploying our capital. That's deploying your social capital and political capital. That's political capital too, right?
Correct.
And then we have to
Correct.
also deploy our actual monetary capital, our financial capital. That's why I chose to become an investor last year, because I started looking at this whole world that I didn't know anything about of investment, of alternatives like the private markets, which are investing in startups, for example, right? They're not traded on the stock market. These are just companies at their earlier stages before they go public. And that really, as I've learned, is where the hugest financial growth is from. I mean, if you want to get wealthy, look at what wealthy people are doing. And they are investing in the private markets. So that means VCs, venture capital funds, or angel investing, or there's other things too. But, that's something I knew nothing about. We're not taught about this. It tends to be something you learn through your social networks, like men on the golf course, right?
Yep.
And we don't have that. We're super uncomfortable talking about with money with one another. And so I've learned like that's taboo. That's actually a taboo subject often. Like you can't talk about it. It's really uncomfortable. Like that's private information. And I'll talk to
Yes.
my financial advisor. Thank you very much. You're not a financial
Right.
advisor. You know?
Right.
As if
Right.
financial advisors, many don't even know about the private markets either, by the way. So,
Yes.
but the more I learned, because I needed to learn about it, because I'm creating a company that I have to develop a pitch, and I basically my first customers are investors, right? I'm selling my idea to them, and I have to
Yep.
learn to be empathetic. What do they care about? What do I want to give to them, and what do they want to see in my business, and shape my business around that? Those are good principles for the business anyway, because I mean, like I want a return, right? And so as I did it and I started digging in and learning more, and I attended the Angel Capital Association training course, and I did all this stuff. I got involved. I started going to conferences, and I was like, first of all, wait a minute, you mean I can do this? I can be part of this? I can actually be an investor too? I'm qualified? I don't have to take a test? And then the other thing is, and then I started seeing the lack of investment in women, which is totally irrational. I mean, we outperform men. We deliver
Yes.
3 times faster at a return, and we are significantly outperform male-founded startups. And I'm going to these pitch competitions, seeing these incredible ideas and these incredible entrepreneurs. And I was like, I gotta get in the action.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and then I want to walk the talk. I mean, I can't just sit here and I'm not going to just complain about it. I need to get out there and be part of the solution.
Yes.
So I decided
Yes.
I'm going to make sure that at least X% of my assets are being invested in women. And like, there's also like a public WCEO, it's called. It's a fund that you can purchase on the stock market. And it's, it's a mutual fund basically of companies that have women CEOs. So I put some money into that, and and I made sure that when I'm deploying my, the segment, not everything is going into this, but the amount that I think is reasonable, that I'm going to invest in. That's going to be my thesis. Is going to be meaning the category I'm going to invest in is women-founded startups primarily, and they could be cross whatever industry, but the main thing I want to do is really support other women in this. So I mean, that's the kind of that's what I meant before when I was saying like we have to actually learn different ways of supporting each other and not
Yes.
and
Yes.
learn how to check when we're feeling triggered. Where's that really coming from underneath?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And that's really how the Unword Effect was born,
Yeah.
was my own reflection with my own unwords, because a lot of my words previously were very past triggered. I mean, they were very much how I viewed myself or how other people viewed me. I bought into a lot of their stories, things of that nature. And my words, how they ended up shifting over this time after doing a lot of internal and professional work. My words are completely different. And so I absolutely agree with you on that. And I love how passionate you are, because we do. It's interesting because when I first started this podcast, I really thought women were going to be tough to bring on the show, that they were going to be harder for me to convince. And actually, the way that it is structured and the level of conversations and the real conversations we're having, I have found more women like, great, I've been wanting to talk about this. And I want to really talk about the truths and honesty around this. And that's why I was really excited to talk with you, because I've really struggled with how women are saying that they're supporting. And we do. We have got to not only take risks in our business, but we have to take risks with one another and really supporting and truly advocating for women, not only from a personal perspective, but also from a financial one. And I appreciate you telling us the way that you do that, because in some ways, I just feel like it's just sort of lip service compared to when I talk to other leaders, just as you described, that they are definitely talking the talk and walking the walk, and also putting their money in supporting women businesses. So I appreciate you talking about that.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I did want to give you an opportunity, if there was anything that you felt that we have left out, if there's anything you really want to drive home for women who are having the same staying up at night with their business, that they're at in funding stage or just about to get into a funding stage. Any last minutes of something you'd like to say, or advice you'd like to share?
Well, one thing that has been really helpful for me is I haven't been truly alone. In my last business, I found a great mentor who helped me, and then she had a group of other people kind of in my space. And having that, I mean, I was kind of a hot mess on those calls, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know what they thought of me, but I hadn't had it, and I was so desperate for it, right? And now I'm in a group of women inventors that is just unbelievable. These women we have each other's back. Like they're like, I'm trying to get this into this, noted in this thing. Everybody go vote for me, or I'm going to be on this. These are women who are appearing on Shark Tank and programs like that. I mean, they're all killing it, but they're doing it
Amazing.
alone, and we have each other's back, and they're all inventors, and we're all making our products overseas. And I mean, I'm learning so much. They're ahead of me, right? Like they already have their product on market. So, and one of them has even come up to be an investor in my company. But
Wow.
I mean, this, like having groups like that, and I was in How Women Leads National Executive Committee last year, and being with that group of really powerhouse women. They were more corporate women, but very bold, very dedicated towards the cause of promoting women into leadership positions and helping women leverage access to capital, through How Women Invest, through the fund. But they're also helping promote just general investment in women's through other funds as well, not just their own. But I mean, things like that are important. So if you don't have people who get you, you probably won't, because we're not that common. Find a group of people who are more like you and who are pursuing something. They don't have to be the exact type of business you're doing, but that is really good to have that lifeline, even if it's every other week you meet for an hour. Having something like that
Yeah.
is really important. So do that. Build your own support system, in other words. And then, give yourself grace. Sometimes you have to walk away for a little while and just say, you know what, I'm done. I need a break. I'm just not going to even look at my computer for a week. Going up to the cabin, I'm going to take walks in the woods, or I'm going to Europe for a month. And when you get back, usually it doesn't mean the end of the world with your business. And in fact, what can happen is you can find clarity in that. And you needed the space, you needed the mental break to take. And then actually you can come back with a new and better perspective on things and a more efficient way. Because you can be so deep in the weeds of the stuff you got to get done. And by doing
Totally.
that, it kind of sorts all the junk out. And you can kind of see actually what truly is important, to put forward. And even if like in my case, I'm worried about, like, I want to plant the flag and be the first one, blah, blah, blah. But I have to keep, and that makes me nervous. It gives me some anxiety.
Yeah.
It's pushing me forward. But on the other hand, if I'm not, that's okay too, because then I'll use that to my advantage. I'll see what somebody else did and I'll just leapfrog them. I'll go over them. I'll make it better. I'll see the blind spots that they missed, and I'll do something even better. So have that faith in yourself that you'll find a solution. I mean, as you age, as you get, like, I'm up there, I'm a veteran. Lordy, I'm practically a senior. um, you know, and it's true. I mean, with age comes wisdom. I mean, you learn to just like
Yeah.
relax a little bit. It's, you'll
Yeah.
figure it out. You will figure, you've done it. You've proven you can do it. You've done it
Yeah.
in many ways before, and you'll find a way forward. You'll find a solution. Like
Yeah,
mine, for example, I just got my very first patent. Okay, I'm in my 50s. I've never even thought of getting a
oh
patent
my
in my
God,
very 20s.
congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, it's not issued
Yes.
yet, but it's been approved. We've got the verbal,
Yeah.
or we got the document saying it's been approved. So we just have to file the paperwork. But we're going to wait and file a continuation so we can add even more to it. So I got a
Yes.
whole bunch of
Yes.
additional claims. So, like, that creates a whole nother potential strategy for us, because the strategy could even be around, for, defending the patent. I mean, that's a
Yes.
monetary strategy. So if a big one of those big companies wanted to, infringe,
Yeah.
that's a
Yes.
paycheck for us. That's a big
Yeah.
paycheck for us, right? So,
Yep.
so that, think of de-risking in the sense of what you're doing, and that'll give you less anxiety. And start to think through, why am I feeling anxious? It's because I'm feeling a lack of control over this one thing usually. And so you think, okay, what could be my exit strategy for that one thing that's creating anxiety for me? Like, what would give me, what's my not escape hatch, but what's my backup plan? What are my contingency plans? And I
Yep.
find that having good contingency plans can give you better rest at night because you're not
Yeah.
trapped. It's that feeling of being trapped for me
Yep.
that
Yep.
creates anxiety. So
Yep.
that would be
And
my
and
advice. Yeah.
yeah, and I think you being able to identify that, I think when you're saying to take that step back, so you can identify what it is that's causing you either that anxiety that's making you feel trapped. But also, I was told it was really interesting. I was meeting with a mentor of mine, and I'm just talking and talking to her, and she was just like, "Have you just stopped to see everything that you've just overcome in such a short period of time?" And I mean, it was so weird because I mean, it almost like deer in headlights to me. I was like, no, I didn't do that. And she goes, could you do me a favor that when we get off this call, that you take a moment to do that? Because I think as are creative, like you and I were just talking about in our brains, sometimes we're just like on to the next thing. We're on to the next thing, meaning within the same space, but we're like, oh, we want to build this, or we want to do this, or oh, this other idea just came. And sometimes there isn't enough space in that time in our brains where we do take a moment to step back and be like, wow, yeah, you're right. She's like, I'm listening to you, and you're like, wow, this is great. Do you realize that? And I'm like, no. And she goes, yes, you need to listen to yourself more because that's
awesome
pretty
that
incredible.
you have that person to remind you of that. That's
To
so,
remind.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I
really
was
good.
like, wow. I mean, I'm just talking, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you for stopping me and telling me to do that. And that was just it was amazing that it was a deer in headlights moment for me, but I'm glad it happened.
Yeah.
So
That's curious. And actually, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, about your
yeah.
greater ambitions. What are your hopes and dreams for not just this podcast, but anything that might spin from it?
Yeah, so I definitely, yeah, thank you. For asking me that question, I do want to get into book writing for sure, because I think we read a ton of leadership books, but they're either very academic the content that has come out of the podcast with really incredible leaders, I get just an hour and a half with guests like yourself. But I just think it could end up being just a really powerful, just a powerful leadership book. And I think there's some series of it that I think can come out of it as well.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And I don't know that, I think you're approaching it from such a unique perspective too, that I really appreciate it. And it's a different take, than a typical thing. Yeah.
Thank you. I would actually like to build a conference around this and really having the type of level of conversations and also doing some things as well as you were just talking about in helping women and entrepreneurs and funding and really learning, tangible things. So I do see some type of just unique conference that is going to be, and it probably start out a bit, I don't want it to be too big because you can only get so much out of something that I want to make just, because when you get out of a conference, your brain is just like, and you're like, oh my God, who'd I meet? Who'd I talk to? But a conference in a way where you can really build these really strong intentional relationships and people really know who's going to be involved in it. So I really see something coming out of that. I've been very fortunate to have global guests on the show come on because I think we can learn a lot from an investing standpoint from other people all over the world, leadership, how we go about starting our businesses. And so I also am looking to even bring this platform even stronger in a global presence.
That's awesome. I would really look forward to seeing what you develop. I mean, and that's really amazing. We need it. We need a lot of voices in this area for us to start making behavioral changes that are, that move the needle. And there's a big demand for it. I mean, I think, when I talk about these things, in particular around women's relations to one another, it resonates with people. And, I mean, the conversations are happening. They're starting to come out, but we need to approach it, I think, from many directions. So I think what you're doing is really smart, and I look forward to seeing it and watching you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And you will definitely be one of those people that will be, I have some thoughts and ideas and I will definitely reach out to you and would love to get your honest input. But yes, I have absolutely enjoyed having you on the show, Katie, so much. I think your ambition, your boldness, I love what I can't wait to see even what your company is going to be doing, because I just get very excited and to have people on the show that are doing very incredible and unique things and wanting to just put themselves out there. It's not easy putting yourself out there. And in the ways that you're doing that on top of truly, truly supporting women, I just really want to commend you. And I was very honored to have you on the show.
Oh, well, thank you. That's so kind. I mean, no, that's very kind of you. I appreciate it. It was really, really fun conversation. Yeah, it was great. And I love and appreciate the way that you're framing all of these issues. You're very talented. So thank you for having me.
Oh, gosh, that means a lot. Thank you so much. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Unconversations podcast. Again, a huge thank you to Katie Stearns for joining us today. And if this episode spoke to you, please don't forget to become a follower and a subscriber wherever you get your podcasts so we can keep these amazing Unconversations going. Thank you so much again, Katie.
Thank you.